Welcome from my side, and thank you very much for your interest in my talk, Young Chemists for Sustainability, a Global Collaborative Effort. First, I would like to briefly introduce myself. I'm currently a PhD student of inorganic chemistry with Professor Hans-Jörg Krüger at TU Kaiserslautern, where I work on bioinorganic chemistry and some magnetochemistry. I'm also the chairman of the German Young Chemists Network, of the German Chemical Society, where I'm responsible for public and international relations, as well as team lead of the team sustainability until early this year. Moreover, I'm a member of the executive board of the International Younger Chemists Network, where I lead the public outreach team, and I'm a member of the UNEP Major Group for Children and Youth, where I helped build and establish the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform. My interest lies besides, of course, my research interest in chemistry education and youth engagement and sustainable development, which I will be talking about today. The title of the session is the UN SDGs for the Benefit of Society. And I'm talking about young chemist engagement here. So first thing we need to clarify is why even involve the young people in this discussion. Now, young people are currently over half of the human population, that is with ages up to 35. Young people also are highly engaged and strongly affected, which is evident by the initiatives of Fridays for Future. Young people are also used to modern and global communication and are the best generation in history, so they should be a strong asset in finding global solutions. As scientists and as the Young Chemist Network, we are trying to work at the interface of science and politics, among other things. For this purpose, last year, we started a survey to get an overview of young chemists' expectations towards the chemical sector with the International Sustainable Chemistry Collaborative Center together. So in this survey, we posed 4 questions that address products and processes, education, implementation, and the expectations of young chemists towards sustainable development. In this, we got 61 full-text responses from 22 countries, half of which were from Europe, but also we had a strong representation from Asia Pacific and Africa, South America, and North America. Now, the questions we posed were, as I said, expectations towards the chemical sector at the forefront. And the most important aspect named here by young chemists is that the chemical sector should be a forerunner in fostering sustainable chemistry and sustainable development. One of the biggest words that came up in the survey is, of course, circularity. Also needs transparency, a moral and ethical commitment towards sustainable development, and a positive influence on other sectors through cooperation. Products and processes should be circular, have a long lifetime, and according to young chemists, we need bio-based solutions that are biodegradable, also for a zero-waste economy. Another thing for a zero-waste economy is, of course, reuse, repurpose, and recycle, have longer lifetimes, and focus on repair rather than replacement. Tailor-made solutions could also help make processes more efficient, especially also energy efficient, and the energy, of course, then should be produced carbon neutral. In chemical and science education, young chemists want to see the introduction of sustainable chemistry in curricula with a modern teaching approach. A positive image of chemistry should be painted early on, already in school, so that people understand that fighting chemical problems with chemicals is not like fighting fire with fire, but the only opportunity we have to solve these problems or issues. And then young chemists also want a stronger participation of industry in education to force the education system to become more applicable to the needs that the future holds for us. So especially also the sustainable chemistry aspect. And here we can see the result of the support by industry and politics. This is investing more in education. So industry should also participate in investing in education, and politics should set incentives for the development of this education of young chemists so they can find the future solutions that they need to find for a sustainable future. More scientific advisors and close cooperation could help to integrate civil society in decision-making and also find the best solutions that make sense most according to scientific evidence. An independent overseer could also keep check of potential greenwashing and set incentives for true ethical and moral commitments. And with that, we come back to these expectations towards the chemical sector. Now, if you want to sum up this in 4 pillars, there you have, of course, you need science-based solutions through innovation and new technologies. Without that, you can't get anywhere. To find these science-based solutions, you need a good chemistry education that also focuses on educating people to be capable of finding these solutions. That is also teaching sustainability practice at school and university. Now, on the other hand, you also need a strong cooperation. You need to work with authorities and other sectors in civil society, so you don't only stay in a sustainable bubble of chemistry, but also have a positive influence on other sectors. And for this, you need to be trusted by the public as well as by the other sectors and the authorities. And you need to practice a culture of equity, open communication, and transparency. Now, if you do all this, you get global investments and socially just solutions as an over topic above this. So if you have cooperation and trust, and you really try to work towards a moral and ethical contribution, you can get global investments and socially just solutions that will work towards the SDGs 8, 5, 10, 13, 16, and 17. So global investments, decent work and economic growth. We need a culture of equity, that reduced inequalities, and cooperation, obviously, goal 17, partnerships for the goals that will result into peace, justice, and strong institutions, and also climate action. Now, on the left-hand side, sustainable processes and practices and products will lead to the fulfillment of these 6 goals. Of course, chemistry education is mainly in this number 4, quality education. And if you fulfill these 12 goals that are within the pillars, the others will set into place automatically. So we will have sustainable cities, communities, sustainable life on land and below water. And if you have socially just solutions and decent work and economic growth, you will automatically come towards no poverty and zero hunger. Now, if we sum up all of this and look at it, compare it to literature and expert opinions, we can see that the views of young chemists are mostly realistic views and are in line with expert opinions. And also, as I mentioned earlier, they're an important voice in the Sustainable Development Goal achievement discussions. So question is, why are young people not sitting at the table at this moment? We investigated this question with the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform, where we had a communities of practice discussion on chemicals and waste and the Sustainable Development Goals. So we asked the questions, what are the barriers to youth engagement that currently inhibit their contribution to this? The first thing that was identified is that there is mostly no formal structure for meaningful youth engagement, and that needs to change. There's also a lack of communication and transparency in the languages that is addressed towards young people. So very technical terms that is hard to get through to. And another very major aspect is the missing financial support, because most youth engagement is volunteer work. So very busy young people that are busy to get a decent education and also need to provide for themselves are often limited in time and, of course, also money, since they're not earning anything, that they cannot contribute to this volunteer work. And the people that can contribute are mostly wealthy. So we are limiting ourselves in diverse perspectives if there's no financial support for youth engagement. So things that need to change are more transparency, financial support, especially for people in developing countries, and cooperation, as well as capacity building for young people to understand these very technical terms that are used at this level of discussion. Now, another thing that we do as a Young Chemist Network is raising awareness and providing resources so we can motivate the next generation of chemists to contribute to sustainable development. And for this, the German Young Chemists Network initiated an action that is the Global Sustainability Guidelines that was heavily supported by the International Young Chemists Translator Network and also by the European Young Chemists Network. And we currently have these sustainability guidelines available in 20 languages, and those are supported by several other young chemist networks. And this is something that is quite nice, in my opinion, because it shows that this is really a collaborative effort of young chemists to work towards more sustainability within their own networks. Now, the most prominent aspect for sustainable chemistry and sustainable development for young chemists at the stages that they are is, of course, the chemical education, where they see certain gaps that still need to be closed. So first question when we do a survey is, of course, who participated? We had this time around roughly 500 participants, since this was a multiple choice survey, and those were from 46 countries. This again was initiated by the German Young Chemists Network, so we have 50% representation from Germany. That is why we will view this separate in the following discussion. Also, keep in mind that even in the international responses, over half of the responses came from Europe. So where are we standing? What is the adequacy of sustainable chemistry and education according to young chemists? And we can see that this is somewhere in the middle. It could, of course, be worse, but there are some people that also say that that the adequacy of sustainable chemistry is bad, very bad, or even non-existent. Most of them think it's somewhere between sufficient and good in the international context. In Germany, it's a bit worse. So we're somewhere in the middle. We could certainly do better on this. And also here we asked young chemists, what do they think? Do they gain through their education the skills to contribute to a sustainability strategy in industry? And here we can see that over 50% in Germany actually say they do not think or they are not satisfied with the education in terms of this aspect. And even internationally, there are also a lot of people that are not satisfied with the gain of sustainability skills through their education. Now, what about the future? What do young chemists want? Young chemists want very, very clearly, so over 90% all over the world, more sustainable chemistry in future education. So this has to change. And then this is also motivated by young chemists that want to work towards the sustainable development of the chemical sector. So we asked, is the sustainability strategy of a company a relevant factor for you when choosing a career? And over 80% said, yes, this is rather relevant to me. Now, to conclude my talk, I just want to highlight that we also did have a discussion on these results, especially on sustainability and education, that was organized by the European Young Chemists Network. And some key aspects that were named in there are, you don't have to be an expert on sustainable chemistry to be the champion of your community. So get engaged, take up responsibility, lead by example, and drive meaningful initiatives for a better future yourself, and raise awareness, but don't forget to act along the way. So with this, I just want to close my talk by saying these are just the aspects that I'm involved in, but along my way over the past 2 or 3 years that I'm working on this, I've seen so many more initiatives. So it's really worth to look at what young chemists and young people are doing to work to more sustainability, especially also in the chemical sector and the development of the chemical sector. But for now, I want to acknowledge the people that worked on these projects. That is Janine Richter, Chris Heinz, and Hannah Kortmann of JCF. I also want to thank Laurie Ferrens and Joao Borges for helping me to get these projects also through IYCN, and for the great support of all the projects that were named that were done in collaboration with IYCN. They've contributed a lot to that. And also I want to thank Maximilian Menche and Dr. Giovanna Milic for the very nice discussion we had earlier this year on the survey results that I mentioned, and Dixon Ho, who is the facilitator of the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform. That is a great asset to discuss about the relevance of young people getting involved in the political discussions. Same is true for Greta Gambilara, Agnes Dittmer, and Janina Haubenreise of the International Sustainable Chemistry Collaborative Center. And I, of course, also want to thank them for supporting our survey. And I also want to thank all of these organizations for their support, and with that, also you for your attention. Thank you very much, and have a pleasant rest of the conference. I'm looking forward to discussing this.